welcome back to the ABCs of ERP and Beyond podcast all around enterprise resource planning and its position in the modern world of business, and really how ERP can support businesses and drive productivity, more efficiency, and how technology can support the ever-changing world of business. So if you're looking at ERP, then maybe this podcast is for you. And in today's episode, we are focusing on credit card processing and really its role in enhancing ERP systems. As you know, many companies often grapple with manual processing of documents and of card processing outside of their ERP, and it often leads to inefficiencies and dissatisfaction and even conflicts of accuracy in data reporting and financial reporting. So if you are looking to streamline your processes with credit card processing and how you can handle it better and how an ERP can support that for you, well, listen in. And today we will go through the what, the why, the how of everything to do with credit card processing in ERP. And as ever, I'm joined by my fellow co-host, Nurav Shah. Welcome back.
Hello, Peter. Happy to be back. And talk about the subject. It's, I think, pretty important to a lot of people, probably top of mind since the beginning of the year. I think there's a lot of confusion, whether it's even possible to put credit cards in your ERP system, or how to properly take credit cards. Am I compliant? My customers are asking me to take credit cards, but I could do it, but there's like so many steps involved. There's just a slew of, considerations here with credit card processing. And what I'm seeing in my day-to-day and the customers that we work with is an uptick of customers looking to integrate their credit card payment processing inside their ERP. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just the natural progression, right? Customers, companies want to get paid faster. They want their staff and users to do less data entry work, and they want to provide additional payment options to customers. So It's like the perfect opportunity now for customers, because it's across the board. In the US, we could still take credit cards, touch the credit card, swipe it. I know in the UK, you can't even touch the credit card, right? And you have to tap or something along those lines. But mobile payment processing, being able to take it over a portal, credit card usage is just going up and up and up. It's not going to go down anytime soon. Right. There's very few people actually, number one, carry around cash. I know at least my immediate circle, my friend circle, nobody's like carrying around cash anymore. Everyone has credit cards. And companies are looking to pay by digital payment methods. Yep. Right. We could probably at some point in the future do a whole thing on cryptocurrency, like how that's going to maybe affect ERP, or will it affect ERP? We don't know. There's actually no talk of that in the ERP space whatsoever.
I can imagine that. Can I pay with Dogecoin? No, go away. Take your Dogecoin with you.
No, yeah, I know, but I will take one Bitcoin. Or 25.
Yeah, I wish I could take one big. Yeah. Do you remember, actually, as an aside, do you remember that? I remember a news story. It was on the TV of a guy who was like one of the first guys to buy Bitcoin or whatever, and he bought like Domino's with 10 Bitcoin.
You did. Do you know how much that pizza's worth now?
That's like $800,000. Yeah. Can you imagine that? 10 Bitcoin for a 12-inch Domino's pizza?
Yeah, I know. That's insane. That's insane. But I think that's just going to keep running up. I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. That's going to run, right? It's already $100,000. With the new administration coming in, depending on what year you're watching this is 2025. And here in the U.S., Trump is taking the reins again as president number 47. And he is actually behind crypto. I think there's going to be a pretty big movement of crypto coming up here in the next 4 years. And how does that impact becoming a viable payment source for companies. And then, obviously in our subject matter is ERP. Today we're talking about credit card processing, but something to consider right down the road. And I think blockchain ultimately is going to be fundamental in how ERPs handle it.
Yeah.
I think we'll figure out how that happens in a separate episode. But for today, ability to take credit cards is, I think, necessary to do business. If you can't take credit cards and you can't do it seamlessly, right, it's just going to hurt your business in more ways than one. So today we really want to dial in, talk about, the who, what, where, when, and whys of accepting credit cards, when to think about credit card processing, who does it, who provides credit card processing. At least the companies that we work with, we could probably share their name, but there's a bunch of others. There's probably 100 other credit card processing gateways out there. But it's the ability to find the good companies that will go ahead and they are proven at the end of the day. Proven, they're integrated correctly into your ERP. So this is going to be a fun one to talk about, because this is a third-party solution. Not a lot of ERPs have this out of the box. Now they are. Acumatica does have, let's call it Acumatica Pay, out of the box. Acumatica Pay is kind of white labeled by Acumatica. They bought it from another ISV, which was a very popular ISV in the Acumatica space, but now they're rebranded it as Acumatica Pay. It's free for customers. They just pay a processing fee, right? So that's one that we'll just mention right out of the gate, but there's a number of other ones out there.
Okay, let me ask you this, because if we're talking about like who is this for and things like that, let me say how I see it from an outsider of when I was dealing with the customer-facing side of stuff. So beforehand, I remember pro forma customers or cash with order customers, and they would phone up, place their order, then their order would be processed on our ERP, and then 10 or 15 minutes later, I'd be phoning them back up to ask for card details over the phone, and I'd be manually keying it into a card machine, and it would print out a little receipt, little till receipt. I'd staple it to their delivery note. Am I painting the picture of how me and probably a lot of people see card payments through a business? That's where I'm coming from. So let's start with that angle of a company that handles card payments based on orders coming in, or maybe they've sold a service. If we're thinking about Acumatica's new professional services edition, how does that compare to what we're talking about today of handling card processing through an ERP?
Yeah, I think it's night and day. Really, it's the payment processors have really figured out how to correctly embed their solutions into the ERP systems, and there's a lot of different touch points there. It could start by the quote side, where you get a quote in, and it's not really anything related to credit card at this point, but maybe part of your onboarding that customer should take that credit card information in the event that they become, they actually order something from you. So you could then directly straight away take that credit card, encrypt it in your ERP, have it sitting there. So when that quote becomes an order, you do an authorization. The authorization happens as part of the standard flow. It's not someone that has to manually authorize, right? Go back at the terminal. Like you said, they write it down on a piece of paper, then they key it in, they get the authorization, right? And they have to plug it into the ERP. Maybe they don't even plug it into the ERP, but it happens automatically.
I remember it used to write it down. Can I have the long card number on the front, please? And you're writing it down on some scrap piece of paper, and you bill it through, and then you had to email accounts and say, I've just taken a payment for this customer for this amount. And they would put it on to the ERP just as a wafty unconnected prepayment.
Yeah, it's called
and
a note.
Then reconcile.
It's called a note.
Yeah, but it's like, what happens then? What happens to that piece of paper? Like,
well, that's assuming you didn't transcribe two numbers or wrote the wrong number down, like a digit, and then you got to call them back and say, "Hey, it's not charging, it's not authorizing here. Can you read me that credit card number again?"
Yeah. And I remember back then, so that was a manufacturing it was a distributor that end customers were manufacturing units, loud
Mm-hmm.
noise environments, and it's often someone on the shop floor, production manager, or even production line operative, and it's going to be noisy. And they shouldn't really be in that kind of environment shouting credit card details.
Oh my God.
Should they?
Yeah,
No one is enjoying this.
No one is enjoying it. No. Yeah, it's a thing though, and when you have that piece of paper flying around everywhere in manufacturing environments, we know it can get really, really dirty really fast. So to have it in one place and encrypted, right? There's a lot of benefits to that, and the ability to link that to your financials
Yeah.
really easily. You don't have payments coming in on one side. Your ERP has zero idea of what's going on because that's really your accounting system at the end of the day as well. But now you have to kind of manually match up the payments, right, back into the ERP where it happens automatically. So it's if you want quick ROI, right, you want the ability to take off a lot of burden and stress for credit card processing, and especially if you do higher volume. I think the right choice is to embed it and integrate it into your ERP. And we have a lot of different reasons why that we'll talk about today of how you could do this successfully. When is the right time to do it for your company? At the end of the day, what are the pros and cons about that, right? Because there are some cons to this, and it's always good to know what those are upfront. And then when you're integrating, what you should be looking for, and then what are some credit card integrating processors out there into ERP? We're just going to name off a handful, but there's a ton other out there. If you're interested, take a look at any of those guys. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun topic. I could help kick this off, Peter. We could start off at who gets impacted at this, and we kind of already mentioned this a little bit, right? It's those companies that have too many manual processes outside of the ERP. E-commerce is really big affected to this, right? Customers request this upfront. Make to order companies that are distributors that don't have an e-commerce site need this capability. And it's you could imagine a lot of different use cases of customers that need a credit card to accept payments.
Mm. Yeah, especially with the type of business that would be heavily weighted on credit cards. It's higher volume, more so than maybe bigger customers that are on credit anyway, so wouldn't really see this side of that processing anyway. So really, credit card payments are often directly tied to high volume of transactions at a lower spend. And it's the place where you're probably going to be spending most of your admin time because of that higher transaction count. So I think the ROI for some company that handles a lot of credit card transactions, this is where it's going to be. I know we've spoken about, an ERP is the heart of the business and it ties inventory to production, to finance, to sales, to customer service. It's all bringing it in together. But this is a perfect example of where you can measure ROI by doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does a very simple thing, right? It's basically taking collections, right? That's what it does. It takes credit card collections, whether it's Discover, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, right? Debit cards, all these different things, right? Because everyone pays with these different forms nowadays. So it takes that payment and seamlessly allows it to integrate into your ERP at the end of the day, and allows you to stay PCI compliant, right? PCI compliance is a huge thing. A lot of customers are not that take credit card are not PCI compliant because of that piece of paper you're just referring to, right? Now you've exposed that credit card that could potentially get into the wrong hands and could then, right? You can see a ton of different fraudulent charges on your credit card, or get hacked, right? Or whatever the case is. Versus when you're PCI compliant, that as soon as you enter that card number, it gets encrypted, right? It becomes a token, an individualized token number, and that token ID can't be hacked. At the end of the day, right? That token is only linked to that processor. Well, can or can't, I think that's a different story. I think nowadays anything could be hacked, but that token is now represents a credit card, and now you can keep using that credit card. And just going back a little bit on that order information that we're talking about, that sales order could take that credit card as an authorization and kind of block the funds. So you know for sure you're going to get paid and that credit card process and transaction is going to go through for you. It's kind of called like a temporary hold, right? Very common practice when you're taking credit cards where you're authorizing the card and then it gets fully settled when you actually ship an invoice to that customer at the end of the day. So the authorization is huge because now as a company, when you take that credit card, you're 100% guaranteeing that you're going to get paid off that order, right? Versus saying, nope, I'm still iffy. This customer, once I send them an invoice, I have to go and call them, get their credit confirmation, and then really pray that their credit card has enough funds that it's going to go through the first time. Right? So this is really helpful from that standpoint that it helps you kind of control or reduce any liabilities of risking not being paid when you do take credit card.
I think securing the payment was a big pain point when we were doing it, because especially when you got repeat customers that always pay by card, you don't want to end up in a difficult conversation. I've been there when they're like, "No, I'll pay when the driver turns up." With my delivery,
right?
And it's like now it's rush because, especially if you've got your own fleet of drivers and vehicles, you've got your driver standing there wanting to get on with his day to the next drop. Whilst you're processing this car payment. And I remember every single time when that was happening, I was like, fingers crossed there's no issue, that I've got the numbers right, that he's got the funds, that I've listened correctly, that I've put the right amount in.
Yeah, right.
Because when it doesn't, it's like now you've got to go back and securing payments painful. Ahead of time is huge.
Yeah, it is. It really is. There's a number of pros and cons here, right, of doing this correctly. The pros is your high volume credit card processor. You could quickly get the payment, right? You're eliminating a lot of manual steps that you're doing. Securing payments ahead of time. Single place to store your credit cards. PCI compliance. Customers get various different ways to pay. There's a lot of pros here. Pros are huge, but there's some cons. Some pretty big cons. Here. The biggest question is who's going to pay that processing fee at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Some customers, they don't mind paying you by credit card, but they don't want to incur that 3%. Right? You have $100 invoice, now you got to pay $103. Unlike, like you said, like if you take American Express, you're paying like 7,000% on top of the invoice. So. So it's a valid concern, no doubt about it. I've seen this handled multiple different ways. Some customers just have a strong arm. Some clients have a strong arm. They say, nope, my customer is going to pay the 3%. This is a feature that I offer them, an opportunity to pay, right? Because, the customer is also getting, while paying by credit, they're getting other benefits. They're getting points, or they're getting like rewards and loyalty, whatever type of credit card they're using, they're getting cash back, right? So if they pay 3%, they may be getting 5%. So the net is they're gaining 2%, right? At the end of the day. So customers also understand that. Or some customers say, yeah, we will eat your 3%. We'll take it. Thank you for giving us payment in advance. There's a cost to that, right? Your AR team doesn't have to go and chase that particular customer down. Right. So you're basically giving them a 3% discount, but you're getting funds up front, which is huge, right? You're increasing your cash flow. Cash flow is king in any business, as we know at the end of the day, right? So the better you can do that, you're going to get more money in your bank. So that's important. And then you want to, so that's one consideration. Who's going to pay the processing fee? The other piece of this I think sometimes gets missed, and a lot of customers don't ask the right question, is what happens if I change payment processors? And that could happen. You could use a payment processor for some time. The payment processor may decide that, hey, I'm selling and you don't like the new payment processor, and you want to go find another one out there. Cool. That's all great. But how do you move your customer credit card information that you already have stored in your ERP to this new processor? right? How do you transfer the tokens over? Not as easy. Not as easy.
That doesn't sound easy.
No, it's not easy. And imagine you have 20, 30,000 credit cards that you hold in your ERP, and going back to all of them and saying, hey, we just got a new credit card processor, re-enter your credit card information. Some customers don't like to do that, right?
Yeah.
But
it separates the regular customers or repeating customers from the
True. Those are the ones that respond
nice way to clean the kitchen.
Away. Yeah, it's a good point. It is. It really is. It is. But if a customer has a credit card on file, I'd rather keep it on file and not disturb a sleeping bear, right? In case they decide to pull it and they decide that they want to go on terms and they become bad paying customers at the end of the day, right? We don't want that. So pros and cons to these things, right? Deciding, what happens in these situations. So it's looking at this next side of it, right? When should you look at integrating? We touched on some of these points already. Volume of orders is important. Type of business. E-commerce is huge. They take credit cards. And with e-commerce, you want to look at that whole technology stack. Because you're taking the credit card order in your e-commerce. The customer's getting an invoice or an order confirmation. That order is passing into your ERP as a sales order. But that payment should also come over into the ERP. That stays as a prepayment to that order, kind of an authorization. And then when you ultimately fulfill it and ship it, then you should get that invoice that then settles that credit card charge and applies it back to the customer right away, right? Or then also then sends out the receipt to the customer, right? Or on the other side of it, the other parallel line is the customer buys something from you on your website through credit terms. It comes in, but then through the process of you filling the order, the customer calls in and say, I want to pay this. Well, the user should be able to go into Acumatica and process payment. They shouldn't have to go back into the e-commerce site or have to go back into a third-party portal to process the payment, right? It should just be in the natural flow of doing business.
Yeah. I would also say that the whole thing about what type of business, and we say e-commerce, I'd also say the companies that want to be able to do e-commerce, the people that are like, no, I'm not going to, because that's just going to become too much of a burden to processing manual card payments all the time. I can't be on e-commerce. I can't have a website because I haven't got the manpower to process so many manual payments. I think it opens the doors to people that have a product that could sell it online. I mean, they say when was the, well, I'm rehashing a saying, but when was the best time to get a web shop? 10 years ago. Second best time? Today. Yeah.
Don't they say that about AI right now? Like,
they say about investing. They say about
investing. AI. Yeah. When was the best time to get an ERP system 10 years ago? It was the second best time now.
When was the best time to listen to the ABCs of ERP and beyond? 3 years ago. Best
3
time?
years ago.
Now. This episode.
Smash that button.
When was the best time to smash the subscribe button? 3 years ago. Second best time? Right now.
Right now.
But it's true, right? There's going to be people out there that have got a viable product that could work great on e-commerce on a web platform, but they haven't got the manpower to handle the card payments that might flood in.
They don't exactly. Reducing your payment cycle, another consideration. Like, your customers are always late. Instead you're offering them 30-day terms, but they're paying 45. Well, that ties up your cash, right? You've already have all these costs that went out the door, but you don't got the cash. When you don't got the cash, cash is king in small business. When you don't have the cash, that puts you in a bad spot. You can't buy. You can't pay your vendors on time. You can't pay your employees, right? You got to get that cash in. Another interesting point is when to integrate is depending, again, type of business. We talked about e-commerce is field service. And you mentioned this, Peter, before the start of our podcast is, field service or installation repair. You go out on the field, you do something, you take payment right on the spot, right? You bill and take payment right on the spot. You repair something, the customer gives you payment right there, right? That's an important point. That order invoice should go directly into your ERP, but also that payment should be going into your ERP. and integrated directly in there. So that's like that remote part of the payment processing that's important. But I think it's huge. I think a lot of customers are doing this more and more, is field service and accessing customers, going to customer sites, taking payments while they're there. So delivery drivers, right? When you have, payment on delivery, a lot of times, cash on delivery.
Yeah.
Delivery guy shows up, right? All right, here's the goods. Here's the invoice. Can I get the credit card? Can I get payment? Right. Last thing you want them to do is go into a third-party portal, take in the payment, blah, 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 all that other stuff, right? Or take it, or just write something by hand, bring it to the front office, and then have the front office process it. Right. You want them to take the credit card payment right there, make sure it's approved or declined right there on the spot.
Yep.
Right. So really, really, really important points there of when you should look at integrating payment collection, if it's always delayed, like I talked about. So all this is really, I think payment processing it's usually not talked about upfront unless the customer already has this need at high volume and they know that this is a requirement. Usually comes out, this type of project becomes phase 2 or phase 3. They've migrated to understanding that, hey, we're already now streamlining the part of our business. Payment processing is a natural progression that we want to streamline at the end of the day.
Yep. Yep. Good. So you mentioned right at the start, there's some companies that you can kind of suggest that people go and take a look at that provide this service. So
there's a ton of companies. Yeah. So we got Nuvei by Paya Payments. Paya Payments, they actually are the number one payment processor behind Xbox, the Xbox payment processing, and they do huge amount of payment processing, right? So Nuvei is one that is really good. ChargeLogic is one, which is now called VersaPay in the Dynamics Nav and Business Central space. EBizCharge, that's in the Acumatica and Business Central space. CenturyLink is one. The list goes on and on. I mean, there's probably like half a dozen, probably not even more, probably multiple dozens of payment processors out there. These are the few that we've used for our customers, but essentially they all do the same thing. The things that I'll look at and vet out is, how's your support? Okay, because ultimately, whether you work with a partner or not, who's going to help you with any issues you come across with your payment, your credit card processing, and your ERP is going to be the ISV itself. These payment processors, how much do they process, right, on their back end at the end of the day? And then what's your what does your clientele look like? Do they do payment processing in your industry and they do it well, right? You kind of have to think of those considerations before selecting one.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Like, what sets these apart? If I'm looking at these different options that I have, what should I be looking at? What am I comparing against? So,
it's does it suit my ERP? Is it compatible? Is it in my industry? Is it widely known in my industry that it's a plug and play used out of the box? Do they have really solid support? Right? Do they have a tiered support where they, if you put in a level 1 ticket, they get back to you within 2 hours. Level 3 ticket, maybe they get back to you in a day and a half or 2 days, right? Do they have that type of? Do they have a good portal for you to look at your support tickets? Do you have a good knowledge base, right? Are they reputable? So all these things you want to kind of play against them. And what is your processing fees? All these companies will negotiate with you. So if you're getting paid, 2.49% plus maybe 40 cents a transaction, and one of the ones they're looking to integrate in your ERP is like 2.8% flat, well, look at your volume of credit cards that you process. They may come back and say, yeah, we could offer you this 2.49%, what you were doing before. Right. So it's a negotiation. Yeah. Don't take it what's available. What they give you straight away on your contract, negotiate it. They'll come down for you. Right. For them, it's free money at the end of the day. So try to get the best rate with these credit card processors that you're integrating into your ERP.
Very good. And obviously you just mentioned that Acumatica has their own one.
Yep, their own
just
Acumatica Pay.
Bundled into the normal pricing.
No, so it's a free solution for Acumatica Pay. You pay a processing fee, which I believe is 2.8% per transaction.
Okay.
So that again could be negotiated based on your transactions that you do for your credit card. by submitting your credit card statements to your process to the new processor that you're looking at and negotiating at the end of the day.
Yeah. Good. I like this topic because it's something that can easily be forgotten about when we're talking about ERP, because we know ERP is strong in inventory control. We know it's strong in the order processing, supply chain management, lots of things. But it'd be surprising how many teams that are bogged down by processing card payments. And if you can get that into the ERP as well, then you're going to save a load of admin and everything else we've spoken about, the pros of it. I think that's easily worth it, especially when you're a higher transaction customer on this. I think a 3% transaction fees, you're going to easily get that back very quickly, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And it could be a great growth enabler as well. You could look at expanding into e-commerce if you've never touched it, or just growing further into e-commerce. So there's lots of opportunity here. If anyone wants more information on this, Nirav, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at nirav.shot@servicerp.com. Happy to answer questions. You can find us on our YouTube channel, throw it in the comments. Happy to engage there, on LinkedIn. So a lot of different places. Here to help.
Great. And if you've enjoyed this episode, then make sure you like and subscribe. ABCs of ERP and Beyond comes out every 2 weeks. We post on all major platforms for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, name all the other ones. We also launch it onto YouTube as well. We often do demos. Nirav shares the screen and we show some of the key features and modules of ERP. So make sure you find us on YouTube as well. So once this episode goes out, make sure you subscribe, because in 2 weeks' time there's going to be another episode. So so great. And me and Nirav, well, we're going to meet up soon. I'll see you in like 4 days' time or so.
4 days,
So at the Acumatica Summit 2025, we're going to try to shoot some B-roll if we can.
We should. We will. Yeah.
We haven't got a big enough following to like plan a live stream with thousands of viewers yet. So maybe Acumatica 2026.
2026, that's right. We have to sell tickets then, probably.
I'm just planting the seed now. Good. Thank you as ever. Have a wonderful, we'll play along with the 2-week cadence of the videos. Have a wonderful 2 weeks. Enjoy whatever you're doing in the next 2 weeks. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Absolutely.
Cool. Have a good one.
Thank you.